Conversations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strong Conversations, Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. I am still your host, Dr. Carolyn Strong, and I want you to join us on a journey where every spark and thought ignites change, and we're here to challenge norms and fuel meaningful dialogue. So, for those of you that have been around for a while, you know how I do that, and I do that through bringing on the best experts in the field. So today we'll be talking about digital equity. Digital what? I know. It's coming. I promise. So today we're talking about digital equity, and our expert for today is Kyla Williams Tate. How are you?
Hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. However it is when you connect with us, I'm happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you because I need you to unpack all this stuff. But before you do that, I need you to tell the people why you the one that is best qualified to do that.
Well, I currently sit as the inaugural Director of Digital Equity here at Cook County Government in the Office of President Tony Pretwinkle. I've been here
Okay,
since...
let's pause for that. Because that means that nobody
Yes,
has had this job
that is correct.
before you.
That is correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate that. Yes. So I've been here since June of 2022, and a lot has happened. This is certainly the year and time of digital equity. Before that, I actually did this same type of work on behalf of the city of Chicago. I worked for an organization called the Smart Chicago Collaborative, which was a conglomerate of organizations all working to advance digital inclusion goals for the city of Chicago. And that was like back in 2010, 2011. Our conglomerate, our collaborative consisted of the MacArthur Foundation, the Chicago Community Trust, and the city of Chicago. And then we were like a quasi organization that was aimed at advancing technology across the city of Chicago. So I did a lot of digital inclusion work, a lot of infrastructure advancement work, and helping to address connectivity gaps on behalf of the city of Chicago, and did that for a while. We were supposed to only be like a 2-year project, and we ended up being like a 7-year project because the need is still there. And despite the fact that it's a new time, we've emerged out of COVID, but we've emerged a bit. You know, we certainly aren't as locked down, and you don't see as many masks on our folks. But I'm saying the same thing that I was saying in 2011. So we still have a lot of ground to make up.
True. But before we go any further, the educator in me will
Yes.
not let us continue down this road without giving the people some definitions. Like
Yeah.
the teacher in me can't let me keep talking about digital equity until we actually define it and tell the people what it is and explain why everybody's talking about it and why it's so important right now.
Absolutely. So if you've done or if you've been in this space before, whether you're in education, whether you are in workforce development, whether you are in healthcare, you may have heard the words digital divide. You may have heard the words digital inclusion if you work in like the library space and are responsible for helping patrons access the internet or fix their resume. But digital equity is kind of a newish term, and our partners at the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and I'm going to read it so I make sure I get it right, defines digital equity as a condition in which all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity needed for full participation in our society, democracy, and economy. So the National Digital Inclusion Alliance is like the foremost authority around digital inclusion advocacy, and they have established some definitions. So if folks are interested in reading more about how they define digital equity, certainly visit their website, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance.
National Digital
Inclusion
Alliance.
Alliance, yes.
Okay.
So they have good framing around it too. So they say digital divide is the problem.
Okay.
Digital inclusion is the tools, and digital equity is the goal.
It's the goal.
Is the goal. How I like to define digital equity is defining what is it digital equity, right?
Okay.
So that we can give like real life experience to this framework. So there is a school in the Southland of Chicago that experienced some facility issues during this last little cold break that we had. So the school's pipes bursted, their furnaces went out, the school has been ruled inhabitable for the students and the teachers. So they had to switch to a remote learning environment. However, a good majority of their students don't have internet at home. A good majority of their students don't have devices at their home. A good majority of those schools in that district don't have enough devices to go around to every student. So the teachers are printing out worksheets and having the parents pick those worksheet packets up and then delivering them back to the school for some off-site grading because they're trying to, one, fight learning loss because they said it's going to be 6 weeks before these kids can get back into the building.
So you can't make those, you're not making up 6 weeks.
Correct. Correct.
Physically impossible.
Correct. Similarly, there is a northern suburb school experiencing the same thing. Pipes burst, furnaces all went out. 6 weeks before those students will be allowed back into the building. They immediately enacted their e-learning protocol, right? All the students went home with iPads. All the students are familiar with the e-learning environment because they actually do e-learning in the school during the school day so that it's part of that learning experience. There's no parents that got to come to the school to pick something up or drop it back off. The students continue to see other students and the folks that they're familiar with in their school environment online now. Those kids are going to fare better as a result of having the resources, having the processes, having the connectivity necessary for them to manage and navigate this issue that they are experiencing in their school building. Those kids in the Southland, they're being harmed as a result of this. I appreciate the teachers and the personnel trying their level best to ensure that those kids stay connected and those kids have access to their schoolwork. But in this day and age, 2024, the fact that that school district in the Southland doesn't have the same resources and the same opportunities as that school district in the northern suburb is the issue that we're discussing. They don't have digital equity in the Southland at that particular school. Right. It doesn't matter what school you go to in Cook County or anywhere in the world. My thought is a school that is practicing digital equity has access to all of the technology tools, all of the knowledge, all of the processes to ensure that these kids can stay connected in adversity.
And that was going to be my next question, because one of the questions I had was, how does that inequity impact educational opportunities? But you so eloquently blew that one out the water that I don't even have a follow-up to that. But I guess my question in this is because for me, being someone that is steeped heavily in anti-racism and equity in general,
yes,
it wasn't until COVID started that I started to get an true understanding of what digital equity look like.
Yes.
There's always been those little things that I kind of knew, like you in certain communities, you call the parents and don't email them because you probably won't get a response via email, or they don't have emails. Just little things like that at the time I didn't also know were digital equity divides.
Yes.
So those were kind of things that I just kind of took note of, like, okay, well, a lot of parents in this community don't have email addresses. All right, I'll just keep calling. But then when the pandemic hit and you were seeing exactly what you just said, it's like, okay, well, this particular set of schools over here told everybody to take their school issued iPad home and wait for further instructions when the lockdown started.
Yes.
Versus other spaces in 2020 that were doing exactly what you just described, like making packets and sending them home and trying to figure. And even then, it was even more imperative that we figure out not only how to get these documents to the students, but get them to the students safely. Because this was at the beginning of the pandemic when we really didn't know what we were dealing with. So you had teachers out there literally standing in the middle of empty parking lots with packets of paper in boxes 6 feet away from them, like, come in and get your work. Yes. And then you turn it in the same way and you put it back in the box, and the box would sit for however many days they told you stuff was supposed to sit before you could touch it. Yes. And so all of this was happening in the very beginning, trying to keep students educated and fight learning loss and keep them engaged, all while parents were trying to navigate all of this and the fact that now the kids were home.
Yes.
So I guess the question becomes, what has happened in between the time that on March 23rd of 2020, when we officially recognized that this is a problem, that now here in February of 2024,
yes,
how has that needle not moved? And some places and educational institutions are still where they were on that day when we fully recognized that this was a systemic issue.
Yeah, such a great question. And similar to what I've been sharing with you around that, I've been having these same conversations since 2011, and it's now 2024, and not much has changed in my conversation. I would say that the needle continues to stay constant in these schools and these communities, is because, like, many of these communities are in crisis. So they operate in crisis response mode. So the e-learning and any kind of digital learning platform or programs were a means to an end, not viewed as an opportunity. So those schools that were being strategic and utilizing this tragedy as a opportunity of growth for their operations, school operations, for those learning moments for those students, they have incorporated even more technology into the school day, even more technology into homework assignments. It is now part of the fiber and fabric of those learning experiences. In many of our communities, they were doing this because this is what they had to do. And when schools were allowed to return in person into those buildings, they did away with a lot of that kind of crisis response. And some of that is not any fault of their own, right? If you don't have the resources to maintain these kind of structures. We know that there are teachers who don't have strong technical skills, who are responsible for teaching in technical environments, learning environments, and learning platforms, and it's challenging for them. So choosing to disregard that and kind of go back to the old school way of doing things is an easy choice, especially when there's no accountability around the choice, right? having a IT professional or someone who was driving technology innovation within your school district or in your even in your work environment. If you don't have someone that's championing that or someone who has the expertise and the skill set in that, then it's not going to be high priority, because I say a lot that people have tapped technology as the new math. You remember when we were growing up, they were like, "Math is so hard." You know, that was kind of the sayings of the time. And so technology has that kind of spirit too. And there's a lot of shame that's built into technology aptitude. If you don't have it, there's a lot of people that make you feel bad about not having it, not acknowledging, like you said, systemic injustice, systemic disinvestment, the lack of available resources, the lack of available subject matter experts, just community blight, and all types of things that
there you go again, getting it right into my next question.
Yes.
And that was what I was about to ask. How does the role of socioeconomic factors exacerbate these digital disparities, and what can we do toward being more inclusive with your digital access?
Absolutely. So the saying goes, the people perish for the lack of knowledge. So we just have to really use our voice. The ones of us that know, we all should be teaching one or more about what we know. And it's not necessarily like teaching digital skills. Maybe that ain't your ministry. But making sure that people have access to the information and that they know what's happening in their communities around digital equity, digital inclusion, helping to fight the digital divide. We've done a serious piece of harm to society by not acknowledging internet as a utility.
Yes.
So when we disregard the very thing that most of us need to do our work, for us to learn, for us to live, then you.
I mean, honestly, now for people to even communicate, because who still got a house phone?
Absolutely. You've created the divide, and the fact that there are others who get to control how infrastructure around digital connectivity comes into communities. And there are places and spaces in our communities that are dark fiber, not lit up. There's disinvestment in places, in communities where you can drive down a street, and the street where the business is located, the large corporation is located, there's great connectivity. But as soon as you leave the block from where that business is located, then your cell phone don't even get no signal. So just how our infrastructure in most of our communities are designed, and if you look at an infrastructure map about where there's connectivity and where there isn't connectivity, we know that the ISPs, the internet service providers, only placed their products in places and spaces where they knew they could earn profit. So that if they felt that you were not a community that could afford their price point, you didn't get that backbone. You didn't get that infrastructure. So there are places and spaces across Cook County, looking at an infrastructure map, where we know there is nothing in the ground, nothing on the pole, and certainly nothing in the sky, because satellite connectivity is a thing, but no one's really talking about it. So
and that was going to be my next thing, because you just sparked a memory for me. Like, wow. You just sparked something for me when you were talking about the connectivity in communities. And I remember very specifically, my grandmother had a medical incident, and my daughter was at home with her. I think she was about 10, and she called 911, and she called me to let me know what's going on. Of course, I leave work, I come rushing home, and I want to call 911 back to let them know that there's a 10-year-old at home by herself, just so that they're not just walking in and knowing what to do. Why did my 911 call drop? I was like, I thought if nothing else worked, this was supposed to be the part that works.
Yes.
And I think that also, like you said, there is an understanding of that, because when I called them and said, you literally failed me when I needed you, I don't want you to be my service provider anymore, they hit you with the you're under contract.
Yes.
And then they said, well, we're sorry that happened to you. I hope your grandma's okay. Well, she's not. She passed away. Now what? And then it was, oh, let me transfer you to a supervisor. Let me get you out of this contract.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And that's a significant issue. Right now in the state of Illinois, we are launching a challenge process because the federal government has designated some funds to come into states to help them to address connectivity issues. They've sliced it up into three buckets. Unserved, meaning like there's nothing around, there's no fiber, there's no, pole action, there's no, connectivity that is open for public consumption. That's unserved. Underserved means that you have some connectivity, but it ain't the strongest and it doesn't meet the minimum governmental standard for connectivity. And then served, meaning that someone has indicated that they service your area and they service at the minimum levels established by the federal government. So there's a map that was informed by the internet service providers that determine where we are served, unserved, or underserved, right? And so we are in the process right now of getting people educated and getting people prepared so that we can launch our challenge in our communities, because a lot of our map in our communities that we know are unserved and underserved are showing up served because someone has said, well, we provide service to that, area. So when you have your internet subscription, you're supposed to be paying for X amount of, speed, X amount of latency, etc. Most of us ain't paying attention to it. We only pay attention to it when it don't work, right? We like, I was on a call and it dropped, or I was doing work at home and I wasn't able to connect. But there is a quality and quantity of speed and latency that we are supposed to be adhering to based on our package. And many of us are not realizing that in our homes. So we have to do these internet speed tests so that we can determine if what we're paying for is actually what we're getting. And if that is the case in your home, you're paying for one level of service and you're realizing realizing speeds and latency under what you're paying for, then we have to hold the folks accountable for that, because why are we paying these astronomical internet bill? It costs a lot of monies to connect to the internet. I'm a power user. My husband works at home. My son is a power user, gamer, school stuff, whatever. We have to have the highest internet connectivity possible. And that bill for a two-parent working household is still significantly expensive. Significantly expensive. If the internet is my right, why do I have to bleed myself dry in order to ensure that we have that tool available so that both me and my family can do the things that we need to do to exist in the places and spaces that we're supposed to exist in?
And to pay your bills.
And to pay my bills. So I have access to resources. So there is a little bit of privilege that is existing in my home, in my particular community. But just on either side of my community, they are struggling economically. They're struggling with connectivity. Even on my own street, if I drive from my home to the middle of my block and I'm on a video call, it's going to drop. And it won't pick back up until I get to the main portion of the street.
Yep.
Why is that? I was watching something on television the other day, and they were arguing over whether or not people going to the moon was a real thing. And she was like, I can't even get my cell phone to have, consistent, signal. But we sent somebody to the moon and sent
50 years ago. 50
and
years ago.
sent it back to people's television so that everybody could watch it. She was like, "Where that technology at?" So
Before the internet was invented.
before the internet was even invented. So like there's some shenanigans going on here, sister. And I'm trying to figure out.
And I want you to. But I will say this. One of the things that I am adamant about on Strong Conversations is that we don't talk about an issue without providing at least some steps toward resolution.
Yes.
That's just I can't be that platform that's like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks,
Absolutely.
this sucks. Hold on, wait a minute. This sucks too. Thank y'all for coming. Good night. Like, yes. I can't do that. So my next question is, what initiatives or programs do you think, as the expert, have been successful in kind of bridging this divide, specifically with underserved and even rural communities, because they get left out of this conversation to a point of ridiculousness?
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Even in Cook County, although we're more urban and suburban, we still have some unincorporated areas of Cook County. And even some of those urban areas look more rural adjacent than they look, urban or suburban. So there are many things that are happening.
I can drive 20 minutes and see cows.
Yes, for sure, sis, for sure. There are many things that are happening that I would consider to be promising practice and best practice to advance digital equity goals. Number one, digital navigators. Having that trusted voice, that helpful arm that you can lean on when you need some support in navigating the internet or any kind of digital tool or digital skill platform. Our libraries have been like the original digital navigators, with them applying, having access to computers, and patrons can use those computers for free, having librarians or other digital skill building staff members there helping to advise people on resumes and job applications and benefit applications, and all of those things that happen in communities when you don't have internet or device in your home. So digital navigator programs need to be supported and funded all over this country. The fact that we only have digital navigators in certain places and in certain species is harmful, and we need to certainly figure out ways to bump that up, right? We have a relationship with Lead for America. They have something called the American Connections Corps, where there are folks, it's like an AmeriCorps program for those who are familiar with AmeriCorps, where there are members of society who are part of that corps serving to help to advance digital equity, digital inclusion in communities. So they're working with libraries and community centers and hospitals and developing service moments where they're helping people to gain more technical aptitude, helping them to gain more confidence. And confidence is something that shows up in our Cook County Digital Equity Action Plan, because we know that when people are fearful and they lack trust, then it immobilizes them. And so there's been years and decades of people who are immobilized by technology because they're fearful of it, and we're trying to build confidence around it. So digital navigators is certainly one solution that I think people should support and strive to bring that into your learning environment. I would say the second thing is community networks. So the ISPs can provide internet to you, right? There's fiber and another infrastructure and grounds and on poles that help to get internet service right to the home or right to the place of business. But you as a community can get together and create your own community network and create your own internet access for your community. There's many successful models of community networks that are being built around places and spaces where the ISPs just refuse to go to to help to provide service. And that's no shade to their business model. You can't be everywhere at all places at once. But communities can, bind together and build up their own community network where their neighborhood, whether it's a block club, or a particular sector or community, can design a network, and folks can have access to the internet in that kind of way. There's lots of, again, models of doing that. They have some community networks in Aurora, Illinois. There's a community network that we have down in the Southland, and organizations like Quilt Non-for-Profit helps to strategize with communities to help them to be able to design community networks to address those connectivity issues.
Okay.
And then the third thing, because I believe in the power of three, the third thing is around leadership. Somebody got to be championing this cause, whether it's sitting at the municipal level in your community, or sitting at the library level, or sitting even at the people level. Power to the people, using their voice to help to advance strong conversations around many issues in communities, this one particularly in digital equity. If there's not anyone in your community that is passionate about this, or has leadership around this, then we're losing momentum, we're losing opportunity. So there is someone, I believe, in every community that has a passion for technology, whether teaching it, talking about it, participating in it. So figuring out who your community leaders are, who your community champions are around digital equity is going to be helpful, because they probably have more connections to the pulse of the work, connections to the opportunities, connections to the resources, and can help bring some of that back into your community.
Absolutely. I appreciate those 3 tidbits, because we got, like you said, we have to start somewhere. So I guess that's what the people can do. So my next question is, what can policymakers contribute to the promotion of digital equity? And are there any successful models that you see?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I'll start with Cook County, not to toot our own horn, but
look, I'm a committee member. I'm a toot with you.
But what I would say is that prior to the pandemic, President Prewinkle had already prioritized digital equity as something her administration, her leaders needed to focus on. So there had already been a lot of work around figuring out where the gaps were, figuring out opportunities, and then bringing together an advisory body, in our case it's called CODE, our Council on Digital Equity, of people who were the thought leaders and advocacy leaders and functionary experts around digital equity or digital inclusion, or bridging the gap with digital divides, to talk with the president and its leadership around what we as a government should be focusing on, right? And so they did a lot of research. They found out a lot of things. They identified a lot of opportunities. And the first thing that came out of that was that, yes, we can know all the things that we know now, but without having a champion to lead that, someone to focus specifically on advancing digital equity goals in our county, we're going to fail, because there's no way any of us individually or even collectively can do that. We need someone to really keep their eyes and ears on this. And that's why my position was created. And I'm not a grant funded position. I am part of the president's administrative budget, because she believes that digital equity is an equitable opportunity to address those systemic injustices and issues that have been plaguing communities across Cook County. So
let me just jump in right there.
Uh-huh.
What would it mean, just for the listeners?
Yeah.
If you were a grant funded position, what's the difference?
If I was a grant funded position, when that grant ran out, if there was not any other funds to help to support keeping me in my position would end.
So being a grant funded position, or not being a grant funded position, in layman's terms, basically means that the administration has taken a stance of permanency toward being a part of a solution to digital equity.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to
Absolutely. And
get that up for the listeners.
Yeah, I appreciate that distinction. And because of that commitment to the county to address digital equity and my position being part of that administrative budget, that is what is helping to drive this work and keep us focused, because that's what my job is. My job is to identify the opportunities, ensure that there's a sustainable model for the work that we are doing, and for those recommendations that show up in our digital equity action plan. That is part of a strong leadership solution. So again, President Preckwinkle was doing this before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, even though no one was prepared for it, right? Yeah. We had already done a lot of work around what we need to do in Cook County to help to advance digital equity goals. And a lot of that really is systemic in a lot of ways. For instance, in Cook County, because we're suburban Cook County, we have a lot of school districts. We have a lot of libraries, all independently kind of, working in their own municipalities or regional way. But we're not structured like the city of Chicago that has the Chicago Public Libraries, which is a sister agency of the city governance. And we don't have a Chicago Public Library Foundation, which is their fundraising arm to help to support the programs of the Chicago Public Libraries. I know for a fact, when I introduced myself, I said I worked at a place called the Smart Chicago Collaborative. We help to fund programs at Chicago Public Library by providing funding to the Chicago Public Library Foundation. Now, without having that kind of system in place for suburban Cook County, we're missing out on the opportunities to stand up navigators in places, to stand up pilot programs that help to address connectivity, because we don't have those systems in place. So a big piece of my work is, one, helping to build out the systems and help to support them so that they stay sustainable. Libraries and schools are something that are super important to me, super important to my heart, and at the heart and core of this work. So I'm working really hard to figure out how we can better support our libraries around digital equity and digital skill building. And what does that look like in a sustainable model? Because our libraries need a lot of love. We've talked about schools, but our libraries have a lot of gaps, yet they stand in the gap in most communities. They're the foremost welcoming, equitable, place-making programming in most communities.
Absolutely. After school, if I'm not home, where do I need you to go?
To the library.
To the library. And what's the library going to do when you get there? They're going to give you a snack and a coloring page and ask you if you need help with your homework.
Absolutely. And so we got to love on them. And it is in my heart and certainly in my authority to help to push forward programming to better support Cook County Libraries. So we're working on a project right now. We just launched it. It's called Libraries as Digital Hubs, where we're going to sit with our librarians and our library trustees and our municipal leaders and figure out what is going on with our libraries and how we can better connect them and how we can better support them, and what role can county play in their existing programming and processes so that we can ensure that our residents have access to the best devices, to the best support staff in libraries, and that there's great programming continually coming out of our libraries. There's already good programming coming out, but we want even more programming, and we want that to be sustainable. So we're working on
that's the key.
That model is,
that's the key, because you can come in, like you said, with one good grant and get one good project off, and then once those grant funds are gone, you back to square one, but now you got people all hyped because they've seen what you can do.
Right. And so I believe in pilots is my love. I love launching pilots because that's where we learn, and it's giving permission for it not to go as well. I think a lot of times, especially when you're getting funding from philanthropy or corporates or donations, that people expect for you to, move the world, for this amount of money, not taking into consideration all of the things that have happened, all of the decades of things that have happened that has led to that conditioning, right?
And that's the thing, like, it's some of these things are still systemic, and that's the part we need to keep up front. With them still being systemic, we are doing this with the understanding that we didn't get here overnight.
Yes.
So it's going to take time. And anytime you're dealing with a situation where a great change needs to happen, you're going to fail and fail again.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things when I'm doing workshops and trainings, and people look at me crazy when I walk in, and one of the first things I say is, all right, prepare to get it wrong. Because nobody gets it right the first time every time. So even if you got it right the first time last time, you may not get it right this time. And so you need to be prepared to learn what you can from that failure. Because even in that failure, there is something to glean from that.
Indeed.
And something to be taught, even if it's nothing more than next time, don't do it that way.
Absolutely. And we need more of that. So I'm endeavoring to launch some pilots opportunities later this year. So stay tuned, folks, because I'm working. Sis is over here working for the folks. We is trying to do this thing. We are advancing digital equity in Cook County. We are building our digital equity ecosystem in Cook County. I am extremely passionate about this work and have built a team of amazing people who are joining me in this fight. You, Dr. Strong, being one of our newer members of our Digital Equity Action Committee of Suburban Cook County. We are a powerful group. We are a passionate group. There are going to be some amazing things coming from this group this year, and I'm super excited about it.
And I'm excited too. And I got one last question for you.
Yes.
Now, because I know you are a busy sis and got to go. But I guess my question is, do you see, and if you can't answer this, I fully understand. Is there a role that tech companies should be playing in addressing digital equity and contributing to this dearth of inclusion? And again, if you can't answer, I get it.
No, I got an answer. The answer is overwhelmingly yes.
Okay.
So we hear all the time about technology companies, especially here in Chicago. We're an international epicenter for technology companies and civic tech companies and digital technology opportunities, right? But we hear all the time that there's not enough people to fill the jobs that are available, and that there's some type of gap between the skill set of the available employees and the available positions by employers. We need more internships, apprenticeships, and externships. No, first of all, no more should we be thinking that a person who is coming from a lower economic community, barely having the dollars and money for the device, for the connectivity, for the skill training, and then has to do an internship and not earn any money for free, like, that is cruel. That is cruel. And you're talking about why folks don't want to go that pathway is because they need to be able to support themselves. They need to be able to support their families. So we need more paid internships, paid apprenticeships, paid externships, and we need more solid pathways from education to career. Like, not just saying, well, we need more coders, because there's a thing that happens in Black and brown communities where sometimes our labor experts determine where we should work. So they'll say, oh, well, we need more coders. And then you stand up all these coding programs all over Black and brown communities, not giving them the information that there's a whole continuum of technology opportunity that doesn't even require you to know how to code. You could lead a team of coders on a program or a project and not even know how to code if you have the information around the technology, you have the leadership aptitude and capacity. But we don't talk about that, right? So we should. There's a significant pathway of from education all the way into career, many different threads along that, road and pathway for people to follow. And even in your regular job that may not necessarily be a technology job, but in your regular job, if you have tighter or better technology aptitude, you're going to be able to make more money. So if we are not talking to our
internet.
Exactly. We're not talking to the people about how you having better technology skills is going to help you upskill in your job and upskill, up salary your particular, salary position. Like, we got to have more conversations about that. And corporations are part of this solution. That is why I have a subcommittee that we're standing up called what am I calling it? The Infrastructure and Ecosystem Partners Subcommittee. I think that's the name of it. And that's where we're bringing
together. Once you know for sure, I'll make sure it goes on the page.
Yes, we are bringing together our corporate partners, our philanthropy partners, because we got to figure it all out. We all living here together. We're not doing this in no silo no more. No. We are going to be talking to each other, and we're going to love on each other, and we're going to make really good decisions that's going to help to benefit our communities. Not just the ones in lower socioeconomic areas, but all of our communities. Digital equity is about equal access everywhere. So I don't care if you're in the North, the West, or the South. We want you to be able to live your best digital life. So
especially since everything is digital now.
Come on. Can't do nothing without a little bit of internet. Can't do nothing.
Even if you want to.
Even if you want to,
you can't.
Yes.
You are doing amazing work, and I appreciate you for coming to talk to me today. I always love talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
How do people find your work? How do the people find the digital plan?
Yes.
How do the people find, like I said, how do they find the plan, and how do they find what Cook County Office of Digital Equity is working on?
Absolutely. If you go to the Cook County website and just query digital equity, all of our stuff will come up. So we're the only show in town on the website. So if you just type digital equity, all of our information will come up, and you click that link. There'll be access to our plan in both English and Spanish, as well as access to our digital map, which shows where a lot of our disparities are. And they're everywhere. They're not just in the Southland or in the West. We have disparities up north too. So I advise people to certainly visit that map and query where you live at to see what your neighborhoods look like and what your digital equity index score is.
If you find out why your phone don't work at the grocery store.
For sure. And certainly if you want to follow us on the socials, you can follow us at Cook County Gov on all social media. That's where we are. And I'm on LinkedIn. So if you also query Kyla Williams Tate on the LinkedIn, I'm there.
Okay. Well, I just love talking to you. You bring me so much joy.
Absolutely. Same, sis. Same.
It's been real. Again, you all know who I am. I am Dr. Carolyn Strong. You have been watching and or listening to Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. Our topic today has been digital equity. So that's all I have for you. But until next time, make sure you step into your truth, stir up good trouble, and spark change. We are here to embody authenticity, challenge the norms, and shape a brighter tomorrow, one conversation at a time. Have a good one, y'all.
You've been listening to Strong Conversations,
Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. Make sure to like our Facebook page at Strong Conversations or follow us on Twitter at Dr. Carolyn Strong. Until next time, have a good one.